That it was Hortgrove Science challenging the industry to come up with an orchard design that challenged normal convention. So in the design we had to think out of the box and come up with something different. The Orchard of the Future concept also had to do with focusing on future needs and future challenges, and also creating a field site for the industry to come in and see what these future orchards. It's also meant to bring the researchers as well as service providers into the orchard. In 2004, Hugh Campbell was on a visit to Australia, to APAL, Apple and Pear Australia Limited, and he saw that they had introduced a future orchard program into their research effort. And he came back with this idea that maybe we should do something as well. 2010, you and myself were given the mandate from Fruitgrow Science Board to go and investigate this future orchard concept in Australia. I had been to Australia in 1995 last and wasn't very impressed with their orchard design. However, in 2010, I saw that they were world-class, world leaders, and in asking them how they achieved this, their future orchard concept played a major role in turning their industry into a world-class industry. So in 2010 we came back and the Hortgrove Science Board gave the mandate to you to start developing this future orchard concept. Our goals with Orchard of the Future is basically to increase the commercial bottom line of our commercial orchards. And we do this by focusing on 4 objectives. 1 is earlier production of quality fruit. 2 is to improve picking productivity. 3 is to reduce costs by reducing tree manipulation, tree training and pruning. And the 4th objective is to improve on-tree pack-out. We're also aiming at getting more uniformity throughout the orchard. This we're achieving with the M9 rootstock. We're also looking at improving soil health as well as reducing our carbon footprint. And I reckon this year we can put at least 35 to 40 tons of Fuji on these trees. The main challenges that we faced in the 3 years that we've been busy with this Orchard of the Future. The first one was the orchard design. Because we're using a more clonal rootstock, trellis design was challenging for us, as we hadn't yet designed a trellis that needed to hold the tree in place for the lifetime of the orchard. Trellis design still remains a challenge for us. The second one was how we manipulate the M9 clonal rootstock, because it hadn't been commercially planted in South Africa before. So we had to redesign the fertilizer regime as well as the irrigation regime. Another challenge was nursery material and consistency of rootstocks. We now are coming into 4th leaf in our Orchard of the Future, and I've seen a number of differences, major differences, between our traditional commercial orchards and this Orchard of the Future. Things that we had to look at differently was our traditional thinking of vigor. We like to see a tree that grows strong and a vigorous tree. However, with the M9, it's a more compact dwarf tree. So that was the first thing that we noticed. We didn't see the same vigor. The second thing, we cropped it in 2nd leaf, where traditionally we start picking in 4th or 5th leaf. We already have cumulatively picked 47 tons in year 2 and year 3, and in 4th leaf we're looking at least 45 tons a hectare. So we have achieved our first objective in coming into earlier production by at least 3 years. What we've also seen is a dramatic shift in fruit size. In Royal Gala we've pushed the peak count 5 sizes bigger, and on Fuji we've push the peak count to count 100, which is at least 3 sizes bigger than the traditional peak size of Fuji in traditional orchards. The challenges that we face with M9 is soil temperature during the months of December, January, February. And in order to address this, one of the things we have to do is put a layer of organic material on the bunkie to protect the roots at high soil temperature. So we've put a lot of organic material on these orchards to protect the very shallow fibrous root system. In Australia, it's been adapted industry-wide. There's a lot more take-up for the future orchard concept. And I've seen their industry change from one that was not world-class to a world-class industry. We still need to sell the concept of the future orchard to both the industry as well as researchers and service providers in our industry, because this platform thing that can take our industry to the next level. When considering our orchard of the future design for the Fruitways Group, the key factor that we considered was rootstock choice. And we noticed that M9 was the commercially planted rootstock in the rest of the world, and yet South Africa hadn't had any commercial plantings of M9. So the building block of our orchard of the future was the M9 rootstock. Traditionally, we were told that we couldn't grow it in South Africa because of our very hot soil temperatures during summer. But for the last 3 seasons, we've seen that we can overcome this with mulch and irrigation control and design. Planted more trees per hectare, and this had an impact on the development costs or the original cost of this orchard. We've calculated it cost us about 60% more per hectare to plant this orchard of the future. However, we've already seen the benefit of the closer planting, the clonal rootstock, in that we've come into commercial production in year 2, producing 15 tonnes a hectare, and in year 3 we produced 27 tonnes a hectare, looking at a cumulative of over 40 tonnes a hectare versus our commercial orchards that have not yet come into commercial production at the end of year 4. So if you look at the IRR on our orchard of the future, we'll be breaking even in about year 7 compared to the traditional orchards of breaking even in year 8. And taking the orchard to its lifetime, we'll see a dramatic improvement in our return on investment. This is a 5-wire trellis system with a pole every 7.5 meters apart, which is almost double the amount of poles we use per hectare than in a traditional conventional orchard. One of the positives that we're finding on this M9 rootstocks is the number of bearing sites per centimeter of shoot growth or shoot length. And we'll see there's a lot more bearing spaces on this M9 compared to the more traditional vigorous rootstocks that we have. One of the key components in a tall spindle is that you produce a tall tree. It's a narrow spindle, but you have to achieve your tree height in order to get the volume or the tons per hectare into this planting. It's a concept that we started experimenting with in 2008. We call it the dirty orchard concept, where we use the wheat complex as a source of organic material. And if you look very carefully at the bunkie over here, you'll see a number of this organic material is made up of weeds. It's all attempt to get improved carbon content into the soil, as well as organic covering to protect those very shallow roots that the M9 produces.
made up of